How did we get here? Now, if you ask the average Christian, how do they get faith? Of course, those of us that have been taught, we know it's a gift from God. But if you say that your faith is not operating, what you're going to hear real quick is that sometimes, you're not strong enough, you're not doing it enough. And although I have preached the story of David and Goliath for years, I always had one question in my mind about this story, which I had no answer for. Where did David get the faith to face Goliath out there on that field? No, we know he had faith, right? And we know the end of the story. David wins, right? So it's real easy to talk about it tonight. When you know the end of something, it's good. Let's go to Rocky Balboa and Apollo Creed. Y'all remember the story of Rocky? Some of you that were, well, no, okay. Rocky's old now. But it's, okay. These guys were fighting. So we look at David and Goliath now. We know at the end of the story who wins. David. David had the faith to fight Goliath. He had the faith to go out there after Goliath killed everybody first. Goliath was a butt-kicking giant. He was a tough road dog. He took nothing off nobody. He was hardcore. He was a one-hitter quitter. Bam! You face Goliath, he's going to drop you, sucker. Everybody knew it. The Philistines didn't even need an army. They had a man. Y'all missed that. They didn't need an army. They had a man. And if you beat their man, you can have their army. But chances are you're never going to beat their man. They put everything into their man. So now we understand at the end of the story that David wins. David wins. But here is the question. See, the question, and if I ask anyone in here, you probably can't give me this answer, even though it seems very obvious. And you would probably give me a lot of spiritual rhetoric and a lot of jargon, a lot of church stuff, a lot of religious cliches. And I would look at you. And I would ask you that if you believed what you just told me, why are you always so stressed? Because I'm going to come back and say, if you know the answer, have you tried the answer? See, that's the key. So my question is, now because we answer the question, when we ask the question, we're going to answer the question, church is over. Just like that. Okay, the question is, where did David get the faith to fight it? Goliath. Where did he get that kind of faith? Now, we understand now that God gives us faith, okay? But did he give us faith to fight our Goliaths? And if so, why don't we fight our Goliaths? Why did you, watch this, why did you go and apply for the job to be the maintenance guy instead of the president? You looked at that application, you looked at the company, and you knew looking at that company that you could not be the president of that company. You knew you weren't smart enough, sharp enough, old enough, had enough experience. All the thou shalt nots you qualified for, so you just went into work for. And you probably had no idea in your mind that you need to work toward. My first day of school as a school teacher, I wanted to be the principal. That's just the kind of dude I was. I would go sit in the principal's office just because I spent enough time in there in high school. But I knew I wanted to be the principal. And I've always wanted to have my own school. Always. That didn't start with a vision from God last year. That's been the vision since the fourth dadgum grade. The minute they labeled me as special ed, I'm going, well, I want my own school then. Hello? Are y'all with me? And I'm talking to kids here now who people are talking to you about your dreams, but most of your dreams become nightmares because you share them with people who have no vision. You keep talking to people who think special ed. And they take all of your time and they keep listening to you. And when they call you for advice, what they're calling you for is for you to agree with their level of achievement, which is sometimes less than yours. So in a minute, you will find out real soon, you don't have anybody to talk to because no one understands your language. And the people who do understand your language, because you haven't been eating with them, fellowshipping with them, now you're not in their fellowship. Faith people talk faith language. They do. So, David was the only one in the whole nation who had faith. What? He was the only one in the whole nation. The soldiers of Israel were terrified. The king, who was Saul, he was terrified. And David, totally unafraid, had to face Goliath. We know this story, but where did that kind of faith come from? I've always illustrated the power of faith and how his faith expressed itself, but I never could explain where that faith came from. And when you stand here and teach the people, sometimes you go back and say, God, I did what you said do, but can you take me further in it? I'm ready to go. And God will say, now, if you're ready to go, you have to spend some time alone with me because I got to talk to you. And you've got to be ready that when I give you that stage, I'm going to give you that change. Here's what the problem is with a lot of us. A lot of you are around a lot of people, and your main focus is you want to have the big stage. You want the big stage. And God never required that you have the big stage. God requires that you have the big change. Because what happens to a lot of us, we get the big stage and more people see you flop. You know why? You got the opportunity, but you didn't get the change. And everybody celebrates your big stage moment for a while. Ooh, you're going to be on this. And ooh, you're going to be on that. And ooh, you're going to be exposed to that. And ooh, you're going to be in concert with them. Well, when God gives us the big stage, God says, you need to be prepared for the big change. Well, if you're not ready for the big change, what happens is it sounds like you're fussing all the time and you're never satisfied. But it's not the big stage. God says, you've got to make the big change. See, if you make the big change, the stage you have is big enough. But what will happen is some of you will get the big stage and don't make the big change. And so you go to do a concert at the AAC and you have a microphone and a speaker this big. You didn't change.